Section 1. The Laughing Assumption. December 18th, 1944. Just before dawn, somewhere along a frozen road outside Bastogne. The engine noise never stops. You can hear it before you see anything, a low, continuous growl rolling through the trees, vibrating through frozen ground that hasn't fully thawed since October. Exhaust smoke hangs heavy in the air, mixing with fog and cordite. Headlights are taped down to narrow slits, turning the road into a moving river of shadows. Truck after truck after truck. Men wrapped in wool and canvas sit shoulder to shoulder, boots braced against crates of artillery shells, jerry cans of fuel, boxes stamped Cal .30 ball. Their breath fogs the air. No one is talking. They've been moving all night. And they are not slowing down. At the front of this column, somewhere far ahead, American armor is already pushing north. Shermans clank past frozen hedgerows. Half-tracks grind through mud that was never meant to carry this much weight, this fast, in this weather. This is General George S. Patton's Third Army. And according to every German staff officer who studied logistics for a living, what you are seeing should be impossible. 2 days earlier, on December 16th, German artillery shattered the quiet of the Ardennes. Hitler's last gamble, Unternehmen whacked am Rhein, erupted out of the forest in fog and snow. Panzer divisions smashed through thin American lines. Roads clogged with refugees. Radios crackled with confusion. By December 18th, Bastogne was surrounded. From the German perspective, the equation was simple, brutally simple. The Americans were surprised. The weather grounded Allied aircraft. The Ardennes road network was narrow, forested, and fragile. Supply convoys would bottleneck. Fuel would run dry. Command and control would fracture. And Patton. Patton was far away. His Third Army was driving east, deep into Germany, facing the wrong direction. Hundreds of miles of fuel, ammunition, and rations already committed to another offensive. In German field headquarters, officers allowed themselves something rare in December 1944. A smile. In a drafty chateau converted into a corps headquarters, German logistics officers ran the numbers. They always did. Tonnage per day, fuel consumption per division, road capacity under winter conditions. They knew American strength. They respected American production. But logistics was different. Logistics did not care about speeches or reputations. And logistics, they believed, would kill Patton's response before it ever reached Bastogne. To pivot an entire army 90 degrees in winter, without preparation, without pause. It violated every rule they had ever been taught. One German officer reportedly dismissed the idea outright. Even if they try, he said, they will stop themselves. Fuel shortages, traffic jams, broken axles, frozen engines, units arriving piecemeal instead of as a fighting force. The Ardennes would do the work for them. They laughed, not loudly, not foolishly, but with the quiet confidence of men who believed physics and friction were finally on their side. At the same moment, far to the south, George Patton was not laughing. On December 16th, when news of the German offensive reached him, Patton did something that stunned everyone in the room. He smiled. He had predicted this. For weeks, Patton had argued that the Germans were not finished, that the Ardennes, dismissed as quiet, was exactly where a desperate enemy would strike. His staff had plans, not outlines, not concepts, but fully developed contingency orders. When Eisenhower asked him how fast he could turn north, Patton didn't hesitate. 2 divisions in 48 hours, he said, 3 in 72. Some officers thought he was bluffing. The Germans assumed he was lying. Both were wrong. What the German officers could not see, what they did not yet understand, was that American logistics was not a static system. It was alive. Behind the front lines, staff officers were already ripping up schedules that had taken weeks to build. Fuel depots were reassigned on the fly. Ammunition dumps were stripped and redirected. Traffic control points appeared overnight, manned by military police with white armbands and absolute authority. Truck drivers were ordered to drive until they physically couldn't. Then someone else took the wheel. The Red Ball Express, once a desperate improvisation after Normandy, had become doctrine, and now it was about to be pushed beyond anything it had ever done before. Patton's order was simple and merciless. Move, don't stop, I'll worry about the rest. And somehow it worked. By December 18th, German reconnaissance units began reporting something strange. American columns were appearing on roads they shouldn't yet be using. Fuel dumps were already established north of their projected advance. Artillery units were arriving fully supplied, not starved, not fragmented, but ready to fire. At first, German commanders assumed these were isolated elements. They always did. But the reports kept coming, hour after hour, division after division. An entire army was turning in motion, without stopping. In Berlin, inside the Führer bunker, situation maps were being updated with red grease pencils. The Bulge was impressive, but something was wrong. The American response was accelerating. Hitler demanded explanations. His generals hesitated. And for the first time since the offensive began, no one mentioned American weakness. They mentioned American movement. Because if Patton's Third Army arrived intact, if those trucks outside Bastogne didn't stop, then the Ardennes offensive wasn't just stalling. It was already dying. And the men who had laughed were starting to realize something far worse. They had misunderstood the enemy completely. Section 2, the movement no one could stop. December 19th, 1944. Late afternoon, a crossroads near Neufchâteau. Snow falls in thin, sharp sheets, slicing sideways in the wind. The road should be clogged. It should be frozen solid with stalled vehicles, jackknifed trucks, shouting MPs, engines torn apart by cold and exhaustion. Instead, it moves like a machine. An M4 Sherman lurches through the intersection, tracks squealing as it pivots north. A line of deuce-and-a-half trucks follows so closely their bumpers nearly kiss. Military police wave them through without hesitation. No debates, no delays, just movement. Always movement. This is the pivot. And it is happening faster than any German planner believed possible. Patton's Third Army is not advancing. It is rotating. 3 corps, more than 250,000 men, tens of thousands of vehicles, thousands of tons of fuel, ammunition, rations, spare parts. And not one pause to reorganize. Behind the scenes, the effort is brutal. Staff officers have slept maybe 2 hours in 3 days. Maps are covered in grease pencil scribbles. Arrows crossing and recrossing each other until they look like scratches from an animal clawing its way north. Radios never go silent. Telephones ring until the receivers are warm to the touch. At traffic control points, MPs stand for 12 straight hours in the snow, arms stiff, faces numb, directing an endless river of steel. If a truck breaks down, it is shoved into the ditch. If a driver collapses, someone else takes the wheel. Patton's order still stands. Don't stop. The Germans begin to feel it first at the edges. Small engagements, skirmishes that don't make sense. An American artillery battalion opens fire from a position that reconnaissance had marked empty the night before. Infantry appears on a road that should still be hours, maybe days, from any major Allied formation. German officers radio up the chain. These units are arriving fully equipped. Not desperate, not improvised. Organized. In one report, a German major notes something unsettling. The Americans are not attacking blindly. Their artillery arrives before their infantry. That sentence lands hard. Because artillery is logistics. And logistics is what was supposed to fail. Inside the Führer bunker, Hitler studies the maps in silence. The Ardennes bulge still exists. German forces are still advancing in places, but the Allied response is no longer sluggish or confused. It is deliberate. Patton's name begins to appear again and again in situation reports. Hitler demands to know how an army facing east has suddenly appeared to the south of Bastogne. No one has a satisfying answer. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel mutters about American resources. Alfred Jodl mentions pre-planning. Someone else blames German air reconnaissance failures. Hitler cuts them off. This is impossible, he says. But the maps do not argue. They only accumulate red and blue arrows, converging. What Hitler cannot see is the chaos holding everything together. At fuel depots, officers gamble constantly. Do they send gasoline forward now or wait another hour to consolidate? Do they risk a road that might freeze solid overnight? Do they reroute through villages already choked with refugees? Every decision has consequences measured in minutes. And minutes matter. At one point, a Third Army logistics officer calculates that Patton's forces are consuming fuel at a rate that would bankrupt any other army in Europe. He sends the numbers anyway. The fuel arrives. Somehow, it always arrives. The Red Ball Express is reborn in winter. Convoys drive without headlights, guided by memory and instinct. Drivers sleep while sitting upright, if they sleep at all. Engines are kept running constantly because restarting them might be impossible. One driver later recalls thinking he had died, that the road, the trucks, the endless motion was some kind of purgatory. But the trucks keep rolling. American industry, German roads, and Patton's merciless tempo collide into something the Wehrmacht has never faced before. Not speed. Relentlessness. By December 20th, German commanders defending the southern shoulder of the Bulge realize the danger. If Patton breaks through toward Bastogne, the entire offensive becomes a trap. German units pushing west will have their supply lines threatened, the same weakness they assumed belonged to the Americans. The irony is bitter. Emergency orders go out. Units are told to hold at all costs. Volksgrenadiers dig into frozen ground with bayonets because entrenching tools snap in the cold. They are told Patton is coming. They already know. And now, for the first time, German officers stop laughing entirely. Reports from the front describe American units arriving on schedule, sometimes ahead of schedule, despite the snow, despite the terrain, despite everything German doctrine says should slow them down. One officer writes in his diary that the Americans move as if the roads belong to them. Another notes, with something close to admiration, that American traffic discipline under fire is better than ours under ideal conditions. This is not the enemy they planned for. This is not the enemy they mocked. Late on December 20th, Patton stands over a map and traces a finger toward Bastogne. He does not ask if his army can make it. He asks when. The answer comes back faster than expected. And somewhere north of him, German commanders begin to realize the truth, not gradually, not intellectually, but viscerally. They are no longer dictating the battle. They are reacting to it. And if Patton reaches Bastogne, if that column you heard in the dark doesn't stop, then the Ardennes offensive will collapse not with an explosion, but with a slow, irreversible suffocation. Because the one thing German planners counted on failing has not failed at all. Section 3, the wall that was never built. December 21st, 1944, before sunrise, south of Bastogne. The cold is absolute. It presses into steel, into bone, into breath itself. Rifles snap with frost. Engines cough and shudder, some refusing to turn at all. In the half-light before dawn, German infantry huddle in shallow foxholes carved from frozen earth with bayonets and bare hands. They have been told this line must hold. Not delay, not harass. Hold. Because somewhere to the south, George Patton is coming. German commanders finally act on the realization that has been growing for days. If Patton's Third Army reaches Bastogne intact, the Ardennes offensive will collapse from the inside out. Supply routes will be cut. Panzer divisions will be stranded without fuel. The Bulge will become a pocket. Orders come down hard and fast. Every available unit is scraped together. Volksgrenadiers, exhausted Panzer Grenadiers, remnants of armored formations that were supposed to be racing west toward the Meuse. They are repositioned not to advance, but to block. This is not how the plan was supposed to go. But plans are dead things now. German artillery fires first, probing roads Patton's columns are expected to use. Bridges are blown early, sometimes too early, collapsing under demolition charges hours before American vehicles would have crossed. The hope is simple. Slow him. Force him to stop. Make logistics finally matter. But Patton's army does not behave like an army under pressure. It behaves like an organism that has already adapted. When bridges vanish, engineers appear almost immediately. Bailey bridges unfold in the cold like steel skeletons, bolted together by men whose gloves freeze to the metal. Detours are marked and enforced within hours. Traffic is rerouted with ruthless efficiency. German observers watch American vehicles back up, then flow around the obstacle as if water encountering a rock. No panic. No confusion. Just redirection. The first major clashes erupt along the southern approaches to Bastogne. German units brace for a disorganized American thrust, piecemeal. Rushed desperate. Instead, they are hit by coordinated fire. American artillery arrives and deploys with alarming speed. Guns are unlimbered, sighted, and firing before German commanders are convinced they're facing anything more than advance guards. The shells land with precision. Road junctions vanish in smoke and fire. German counterattacks never fully form before being broken apart. One German officer radios that the Americans are attacking as if they had weeks to prepare. They did not. They had logistics. Inside Bastogne, the 101st Airborne waits. Surrounded, low on ammunition, low on food, wounded stacking up in cellars and aid stations, snow drifting through shattered roofs. They can hear the fighting now. Not distant. Closer. Artillery from the south. Hope carried on sound. Patton pushes harder. He does not slow to consolidate. He does not wait for perfect conditions. He knows exactly what time is buying him and what delay will cost. His instructions are clear. Attack relentlessly. Not cautiously. Relentlessly. German resistance stiffens, but it is no longer synchronized. Units are fed into the line as they arrive, not as part of a cohesive defense. Radios crackle with confusion. Orders contradict each other as higher headquarters struggle to react to a situation they never believed would exist. Some German officers still believe Patton must run out of fuel. Others cling to the hope that weather or exhaustion will do what their planning failed to accomplish. But the American columns keep coming. Fuel trucks reach forward positions with engines still running. Ammunition stocks remain full. Artillery never falls silent for lack of shells. The miracle the Germans waited for does not arrive. On December 22nd, German forces inside Bastogne demand the American surrender. The reply is simple. Nuts. Outside the town, Patton smiles when he hears it. Because he knows something the Germans do not. This is no longer a race. It is a collision. And the force behind it is not bravery or numbers. It is momentum. As night falls on December 22nd, German commanders finally understand the truth in full. They are not facing an American army struggling to supply itself. They are facing an American army that has already solved the problem and is now weaponizing it. Patton's logistics have not just sustained the advance. They have become the advance. And tomorrow, that frozen road into Bastogne will finally break open. Not because the Germans lacked courage, but because they misunderstood what modern war had become. Section 4, the breakthrough that should not have happened. December 26, 1944, 4:50 p.m. just outside Bastogne. The snow is trampled into gray slush, churned by tracks and boots and shell craters. Smoke drifts low across the road, clinging to the ground as if it doesn't want to leave. The sound of artillery has not stopped for days. It has only moved closer, tightening like a noose. An American Sherman noses forward through the haze. Its hull is scarred. Its antenna whips in the cold wind. The white star on its side is half hidden by mud and soot. Behind it, infantry advance cautiously, rifles up, breath steaming in the air. They are not rushing. They are arriving. At precisely the moment German commanders insisted Patton could not possibly reach Bastogne, he does. The 4th Armored Division punches through the final German roadblock at Assenois. A column that was never supposed to exist, supplied, fueled, coordinated, links up with the surrounded 101st Airborne. The siege is broken, and the reaction on the German side is immediate. Shock, then disbelief, then something worse. German units pull back in confusion. Defensive positions that had been ordered to hold at all costs suddenly find themselves irrelevant, bypassed, flanked, cut off. Radio messages overlap and contradict each other. Maps are already out of date by the time orders are issued. What was meant to be a wall has collapsed into gaps. Gaps Patton's forces flow through without hesitation. Inside Bastogne, paratroopers stare in disbelief as American armor rolls into the town. Some men cheer. Others simply sit down, too exhausted to react. Medics rush to the wounded with fresh supplies. Ammunition is unloaded directly into foxholes. Food arrives. Fuel arrives. Everything the Germans believed the Americans could not deliver arrives. The psychological blow is devastating. For days, German planners believed time was on their side. That winter, terrain, and logistics would grind the American response into paralysis. Instead, those same factors have betrayed them. The weather that grounded Allied aircraft had also concealed Patton's movement. The roads meant to choke supply had been mastered. The time meant to exhaust American strength had only concentrated it. The Germans are not just being pushed back. They are being outpaced. Inside the Führer bunker, the Ardennes maps no longer look like opportunity. They look like a wound. Hitler demands counterattacks that do not exist. Divisions that are shadows on paper are ordered to advance. Fuel allocations are promised that cannot be delivered. The momentum is gone. And everyone in the room knows it. Patton does not celebrate. He is already thinking ahead. Because breaking into Bastogne was never the end. It was proof. Proof that the German assumption, the one they laughed about, was wrong at the most fundamental level. American logistics had not bent. It had not cracked. It had crushed resistance by refusing to stop. As Patton's columns continue to press north and east, German officers begin using new language in their reports. They no longer speak of delays. They speak of inevitability. The Ardennes offensive, conceived as a decisive blow, is now a struggle to escape destruction. And the turning point was not a single battle. It was a movement. An army that never paused long enough to fail. On the frozen roads outside Bastogne, the traffic never truly stops. Fuel trucks still move forward. Ambulances still move back. Artillery still shifts position, always ready to fire again. This is what the Germans never understood. Modern war is not won by the most daring plan. It is won by the side that can keep moving when everything says it shouldn't. And in December 1944, that side was George Patton's Third Army. Section 5, The Collapse of the Last Illusion. December 28, 1944, night, somewhere east of Bastogne. The temperature drops again. Not gradually, violently. Breath crystallizes in the air. Weapons are wrapped in rags to keep the metal from biting bare skin. The road is a ribbon of ice, polished by thousands of passing vehicles that never seem to stop coming. American traffic still flows. German confidence does not. What began as an ambitious counteroffensive has unraveled into a struggle for survival. German units that once raced west now fight to disengage. Fuel shortages turn armored formations into immobile artillery. Tanks are abandoned, their crews blowing them apart with demolition charges rather than letting them fall intact. Orders from higher headquarters arrive late, unclear, or impossible. The initiative is gone, and the reason is no longer debated. Patton. German officers write it plainly now. The Americans did not win because they were lucky. They won because they could move. Logistics, once dismissed as a weakness, has become a weapon. One staff report notes with bitter precision that American supply columns operate with a freedom we no longer possess. Another officer writes that the Americans fight with the confidence of men who know they will be fed, fueled, and reinforced. Confidence in modern war is decisive. As Patton's Third Army continues to expand the breach, German commanders attempt localized counterattacks. They fail quickly. Artillery ammunition runs low. Radios fall silent. Units are committed and destroyed in isolation. The American response is relentless but controlled. They do not overextend. They do not outrun their supply lines. They have mastered the balance the Germans lost years earlier. Inside Berlin, the atmosphere turns poisonous. Hitler lashes out at his generals. Accusations fly of betrayal, of cowardice, of incompetence. The Ardennes offensive, once hailed as a masterstroke, is now blamed on everyone except the man who conceived it. But no amount of shouting can change the maps. The Bulge is shrinking, and every mile it collapses is fed by the same unstoppable American movement. Patton receives reports with calm satisfaction. He has proven what he always believed. That war is not just fought by soldiers at the front, but by truck drivers, mechanics, clerks, engineers, and traffic controllers, all moving in rhythm. Without them, nothing advances. With them, nothing stops. By early January 1945, the German offensive is officially over. The cost is staggering. Men lost, equipment destroyed, fuel burned for nothing. And the psychological damage is permanent. German commanders now understand they cannot surprise, outmaneuver, or outlast an enemy who can rebuild momentum faster than it can be destroyed. The illusion is gone. The Ardennes is remembered for courage, sacrifice, and brutal winter fighting. But beneath the snow and gunfire, something quieter decided the outcome. A decision made weeks earlier. Plans drawn up when others laughed. Routes memorized, convoys rehearsed, movement anticipated. Patton did not improvise his success.